The Ballad of the Bee-Eater, a Kipling archive mystery. The year is 1894, and the American imagination is hungry. It has devoured the latest sensation, a collection of stories bound under the title The Jungle Book. From drawing rooms in Boston to ranches in the Arizona Territory, the name Mowgli, the wolf child, is whispered. But few, perhaps only two men, knew the dark, improbable origin of the tales, an origin rooted not just in Rudyard Kipling's fevered memory, but in a strange, half-forgotten chapter of the British Raj. Our story begins not in the sun-drenched Seoni jungle, but in a meticulously ordered office in London, where the scent of aged paper and pipe tobacco hangs heavy. Rudyard Kipling, barely 30 but already the world's highest-paid author, is reviewing a new batch of fan mail. One letter, however, stops him cold. It is from a woman in Savannah, Georgia, who signs herself Auntie Maeve. She thanks him for the stories, calling them unsettlingly familiar. And then, in a spidery hand, she poses a single, devastating question. Where did you leave the bee-eater, Rudyard? He remembers the smell of the dust. Kipling felt a chill that had nothing to do with the English weather. The bee-eater, that was the code name. A name he hadn't heard in 2 decades, a name associated with a frantic, desperate journey across the Deccan Plateau, and with a secret he had sworn on his father's honor to take to his grave. This American woman, this Auntie Maeve, was pulling at the first thread of a tightly woven lie. Kipling reached for a locked iron box tucked beneath his desk, a box containing not manuscripts, but a series of dry, official-looking documents, stamped with the seal of the East India Company's Zoological Survey, 1872. To understand the documents, one must understand the man who became Mowgli. His real name, the name he was born with, was Nathoo. His father was a lowly water carrier for a British infantry regiment stationed near Seoni, and his mother, a woman of indomitable will, worked as a laundress. The year was 1872. The jungle, less romantic than Kipling painted it, was a brutal, pragmatic place, a contested borderland between the human and the wild. The wolf pack, led by the stern Akela, was not a unified noble society, but a fragmented territorial clan, and they did not adopt Nathoo. They stole him. The official British narrative, the one Kipling later sanitized, was that Nathoo was lost, a feral child discovered by chance. The truth was far darker. Nathoo was taken during a cholera epidemic that ravaged the camp, a desperate sacrifice made by his superstitious father to the spirits of the forest to spare his other children. He was placed, crying, bewildered, and smelling of human fear, at the edge of a well-used wolf trail. The wolves, starving and opportunistic, did not kill him. They were led by Akela, an aging male, who saw in the small, resilient human infant not a meal, but a strange, living amulet against the encroachment of the Imperial Railroad, which was slicing through their territory like a steel blade. The British officers, however, could not afford to lose a child of the camp, especially with the simmering tensions of a possible mutiny. A young, fiercely ambitious officer named Colonel Arthur Prentice was tasked with tracking the boy. Prentice was a man of science as much as of war, a protege of the Royal Society, and he saw in the jungle's secrets a path to promotion. He didn't want to simply rescue the boy, he wanted to document him, to capture a definitive proof of the mythical feral child for the dusty halls of the London Museum. This was the true genesis of the characters we know. Prentice employed a disgraced local tracker named Baldeo, whose intricate knowledge of the forest was unmatched. Baldeo, fueled by opium and a lifelong bitterness towards the British, became the dark inspiration for Bagheera, the Black Panther. Baldeo understood the jungle's economy of fear. He knew that the only thing that could truly command the wolf's fear was the terrifying Bengali tiger, Shere Khan. Shere Khan, in this historical account, was not merely a villain, he was a literal menace. He had been driven from his northern territory by big game hunters, American industrialists paying exorbitant sums for trophies, and had become a territorial tyrant, obsessed with eliminating any competitor, human or animal, that threatened his new domain.
The search for Nathoo turned into a desperate secret war. Prentice's detachment, accompanied by the 17-year-old Rudyard Kipling, who was then serving an unofficial apprenticeship as a camp journalist and observer, followed Baldeo's cryptic leads. Kipling, an outsider with a photographic memory and an insatiable curiosity, kept a meticulous, unauthorized journal. He saw what Prentice tried to ignore. The child, Nathoo, was adapting. He wasn't merely surviving, he was learning a language of scent, snap, and shadow. The most shocking revelation lay in the character of Baloo, the sleepy brown bear. Baloo, in the Seoni jungle of 1872, was an immense sloth bear, Milursus ursinus, famed among the local tribes for his near-human intelligence. He was captured, not found, by a disgraced Hindu sage who used the bear for bizarre, religious-tinged rituals in a hidden cave. Baloo's only human interaction was with this sage, a brutal man who beat the bear into performing what he called the law of the jungle, a convoluted moralistic framework of survival. Baloo eventually killed the sage and escaped, but not before internalizing the law, a fragmented, often contradictory ethical code that became Nathoo's only true education. Nathoo was not taught by Baloo. He was sheltered by him, protected by the bear's guilt and profound, traumatized intelligence. The critical confrontation occurred not at the Council Rock, but during the construction of a temporary bridge for the railroad. Colonel Prentice, having finally cornered the wolf pack, decided to use an extreme measure: fire. Prentice ordered his men to ignite a section of the dry scrubland to flush out the boy. Kipling, horrified, realized the officer intended to capture the boy regardless of the risk to his life, viewing him as a specimen, not a human. It was during this engineered inferno that Nathoo, the wolf child, earned his lasting moniker, the one that Auntie Maeve would invoke 20 years later, the Bee-Eater. In the chaos, as the wolves scattered, Shere Khan launched his final calculated attack, not on the boy, but on Akela. Nathoo, displaying a courage that defied his size and age, did not use a knife or a gun. He used a tactic he had learned from Baloo. He threw a handful of dried red peppers, which he had gathered from a nearby farm, directly into Shere Khan's eyes. The tiger, blinded and screaming, stumbled into the path of a collapsing trestle. He was crushed. Akela, mortally wounded but alive, gave his final blessing to the boy, not to stay, but to leave. The wolves had learned their lesson. The man-cub carried a dangerous, uncontrollable magic, fire and spice, that belonged in the human world. The capture of Nathoo was orchestrated by Kipling himself. The young journalist, disgusted by Prentice's callousness, slipped away and found Nathoo at the river's edge, confused by the death of Shere Khan and the scattering of the pack. Kipling, speaking in a halting mixture of Hindustani and English, promised the boy not a return to civilization, but a chance at freedom. He was not returned to his family. Prentice was convinced that the secret of the Bee-Eater, the true story of the feral child who killed a tiger, was too dangerous. It would undermine the carefully constructed narrative of the Rai's orderly conquest of the wild. Kipling smuggled Nathoo away, arranging passage for him out of India via a Dutch merchant vessel bound for America. The rationale was simple. America was the land of reinvention, a place where a past could be burned away. He gave Nathoo an envelope containing 100 rupees and a single name, Maeve, his mother's American cousin, a woman who had often written to him about the vast, empty landscapes of the American West. She ran a small, struggling citrus grove near Savannah. Kipling returned to Colonel Prentice, who believed the child had perished in the fire, and was forced to accept the official sanitized report. Kipling then destroyed the original copy of his journal, keeping only a few cryptic notes and the documents from the Zoological Survey, which listed Nathoo's discovery as a routine case of a rescued captive. This became the skeleton of the Jungle Book, the terrifying, complex reality stripped down to a moral parable for children. The terrifying pragmatism of Akela became noble law, the drug-addled tracker Baldeo became the sleek, protective Bagheera, the traumatized survivor Baloo became a benevolent teacher, and the American trophy hunter-driven Shere Khan became the personification of ancient evil. The fire that killed the tiger was transformed into the red flower that the man-cub only threatens to use. The letter Kipling held now was not just from Auntie Maeve. The handwriting on the back was different, a powerful, confident scrawl that read, "The Bee-Eater sends his respects. We found a new jungle here. Do not write the truth, Rudyard. Let the legend live. But remember the dust. The dust. The terrible, choking dust of the burned Seoni jungle." Kipling folded the letter and placed it into the iron box with the documents. He knew the truth was safe. Nathoo, the real Mowgli, was not in London or Paris or Bombay. He was a man of the American South, living a new life, having exchanged the law of the jungle for the law of the land. The world wanted the fable, the moral tale of the jungle's benevolent tutelage. It did not want the historical reality, the truth of a stolen child, a British cover-up, and an act of spectacular courage committed by a boy who simply wanted to escape the cruelty of both the human and animal worlds. Kipling closed the box, the sound of the latch a final, definitive period on a story that was for him, forever locked away. He picked up his pen, dipped it in ink, and began a new poem, a meditation on the beauty of a lie well told. The legend of the wolf child was secure in the American consciousness, a piece of glorious, informative fiction built upon a foundation of imperial secrecy and the unvarnished courage of a boy named Nathoo.